Okay, I have a little time to watch this shit show today since the scanner calls are done, which they weren't yesterday, which is why I never get to watch these. If I have to rate my entertainment, the scanner calls always come first before this ridiculous nonsense. So if I have a choice between scanner calls and board, scanner calls will always win because scanner calls for me is like it's like better than cable TV. And there's some pretty good shows on, but this is still the scanner's still better because it's something I'm aware of. I was there. I used to drive these buses. I know the problem. Blah blah blah. You don't care about me talking about. Let's continue listening to this shit show.
So you've budgeted large amounts for capital improvement projects in the last 5 years, including $322 million in this budget. Historically, the district completes about 70% of the budgeted capital work plan. Budget law, of course, requires a good faith estimate for expenditures. We know that capital projects are impacted by a huge variety of factors, permitting, weather, global pandemic, supply chain issues, lots of things. We're wondering about what the circumstances are in delaying the work generally and how you plan on improving the project completion rate.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Jamie Snook. I'm the Director of Major Projects and our
There's the Director of Major Projects, everybody, right there.
Engineering, Construction, and Planning Group. Thank you for letting us be here. So capital budgeting is
Don't thank them for letting you be here. You are required to be there.
challenging for sure. We all see that every day. And there are many unknowns when we're developing our capital budgets, particularly when we're doing it early in the planning phase. The timing of expenditures is often difficult, particularly when we're looking at identifying those expenditures 15 to 18 months before when those expenditures occur. So once a project is budgeted, we do see a variety of reasons for the delay. Some of it is supply chain, staffing, permitting, and much of that is beyond our control. But we have been working really closely with our teams to identify ways to mitigate or reduce that gap. Some of those things that we have been doing is that we're investing early on in the planning and project development phase to really focus on scope certainty, realistic schedules, and cost and contingencies to make sure that we're doing a better job early on planning for those capital budgets. Additionally, we are investing in a new project management tool to help us with that process, help us manage the projects better, focusing on key indicators and enhancing the cash flow tracking and monitoring. So we're hoping that tool will really help us develop a better process. Over the past few years, we've had some employee turnover, which I think we've heard and talked about. A lot of that is beyond our control, but we're working really hard to fill in those gaps and increase staffing in this very challenging staffing market.
What?
And we're also working.
You're not having any trouble filling executives. You just can't find people to actually do the actual job that you need. A lot of people want those nice, cushy executive jobs.
Working on the permitting side with our project partners to expedite the permitting schedules. It's challenging because they are often going through the same pain and suffering that we're going through with the staffing challenges, but we're working really closely to develop better schedules. So with our continuing focus on the budgeting utilization, we're hoping to reduce those gap with those key measures.
That's your answer?
Thanks, that's helpful. So it sounds like a lot of different factors going in. And so some of those, bringing new project online, trying to get people up to speed. I mean, are you expecting to see gains from that within the next year, or is that a longer term plan to kind of try to more closely budget for these big projects?
I think it's all the above.
Yeah.
So we're working really closely with our partners on the permitting. We've been doing that for the past year, and I think we're getting really good relationships built to help move that forward. We have been increasing staff. Hiring staff has taken longer than anticipated with this challenging market, but I think because TRIMET's such a wonderful place to work, I say that with every ounce of my heart.
And Kim is really just giving you the...
Yeah, because you got one of the good jobs there. Of course, it's a wonderful place to work for you. Hell.
Thumbs up back there.
We are getting really talented staff in place with lots of good experience and bringing new ideas, and we're really excited about the new staff that we're adding to our team. We're really excited about the new management tool. Once we have that on board, we see that as a really productive tool to help us through this process. So I think in the short term, we're excited about the changes that we're making, and I think it will help us really well in the long term.
Thanks. So then shifting, which I'm sure is why Nancy is at the dais as well. So that, I mean, it seems like, trying to do kind of a more accurate job forecasting on the front end, great, and a lot of things are happening on that front. And then from the kind of budget side, we're wondering, if budgeting is typically 30% higher than expected cost, is that intentional, or what are the reasons for budgeting at that level? And have you considered splitting out into a separate, capital fund so that it would kind of more clearly track how much was being carried forward from budget to budget?
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. So of course it is not TRIMET's intent to budget 30% higher than what the expected costs are. And as Jamie described, there are some elements that causes a project to slow down or speed up at any given time. And Jamie has presented some good alternatives for going forward. In addition, we will be looking at better matching the available staff time and hours to work on projects and making sure that what we are budgeting, if everything goes according to plan, we will be able to fill those projects and have them done. The consideration of establishing a capital fund is a question that we look at internally every couple years, generally in response to a question such as yours this morning. And as you know, GASB 34, paragraph 104, codified in section 113, states that governmental units should establish and maintain those funds required by law and sound financial administration, and only the minimum number of funds consistent with legal and operating requirements should be established, because unnecessary funds result in inflexibility, undue complexity, and inefficient financial administration.
Yeah, right.
And TRIMET has elected to maintain one fund in order to maintain flexibility. Very specifically, we appropriate by organizational unit. And each one of those organizational units, as represented by the divisions, includes personal services, materials and supplies, and the capital projects for which they're responsible for. So in order to maintain that level of flexibility, we believe that one fund is appropriate. When you look at our capital improvement section of the budget on pages 278 through 280, we do clearly call out the amount of external funding, that's being carried forward, the amount of TRIMET general fund, the amount of TRIMET general funds being carried forward, as well as our bond funds. And in the comments, we call out what the nature of that external funding is. So our process allows us to maintain that flexibility while maintaining transparency and accountability to the public.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Could I
very good.
follow up? I do not want to discuss GASB with you. I've been retired long enough that I don't have to do that anymore. But I understand that there is an encouragement to have the minimum amount of funds necessary, but TRIMET is our only district and one of our largest districts whose minimum is one. Mm-hmm. The public doesn't recognize the difficulties of how many funds, or why can't you use this restricted money to do what I want you to do. But does it not obscure the amount of available money for operations when there isn't a separation between operations and capital? Doesn't that make it more difficult for the public to understand the nature of those two enterprises?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Margot, I appreciate the question. As TRIMET is a proprietary enterprise fund, where compared to some of the other governments where, they've got governmental funds and, all the 11 different types that you can have.
What?
Being an enterprise fund, a special purpose district, does allow us to have less funds. And as far as, as we look at, should we have a capital fund or any other type of fund, one of the elements that we look at is what additional reporting would we be providing that we're not providing today? And so as we look specifically at the capital program, we measure ourselves against the GFOA's requirements for best practices in budgeting and all of the criteria and all the narrative, the qualitative and quantitative elements that we need to be reporting. And so whether that's reported in a separate fund or just one fund, we believe that we are providing all the necessary information. We also, within the budget, as you look at it, we list the divisions that totals their personal services and their materials and services as one number, and separately we report by division the amount of capital projects. So there is that division, so it's not commingled, it is called out separately.
Now, whatever she's talking about.
So I'm sure we'd love to talk more about GASB and the number of funds, but I'm going to shift gears here a little bit to one of the new,
Well, I had no idea what they were talking about in that, but we'll continue. It's all nebulous financial stuff that they just throw out there that nobody can understand but them.
projects and initiatives that you recently implemented for Harmony's bus line over here. So this is, in here, okay. So yeah, very, very dear to the hearts of the TSCC apparently. The Division Route FX line, the agency's first high-capacity bus service, was introduced in 2022 in September. So 6 months later, I guess, what are your initial impressions of the FX line? Is it a cost-effective strategy to increase transit
Okay, let's see if we get any actual information in this.
along high-traffic streets? Did it achieve your goals for this line, which we understand to be not just ridership levels, but also reducing time to downtown?
Thank you. I'm Alan Lato. I'm the Senior Director of Planning. I use he, him pronouns, and I ride the 12 and the 19.
He's he, him. Okay, Alan, play it. I still don't get all that. I'm sorry. I know I'm old, but I don't understand it. What's it all about? Why did they start it? Where did it come from? It's a psyop. That's what it is. It's just another psyop in the never-ending psyops that we, the people, are exposed to on a daily basis.
We're happy with the division route.
He does have his name tag. I'll give him credit. See, none of the other ones do. Anybody that wears a name tag, I have a little more respect for, because that's like trying to show that you're just another guy. And I like that. I do like things like that. Little gestures to try to connect with average people. It's important. May not be. This guy's for real. Lato's for real. I've known him. I've talked to him. I've watched him. He's for real. He's not some fake bureaucrat. He actually knows what he's doing, and he's been doing it a long time.
Out so far, the new FX2 line. First, we were happy to be able to deliver it on time and on budget, and allow folks along division to be able to take advantage of this new service.
Everybody that uses it likes it. I've heard nothing but positive, because the buses alone are an improvement. You're not packed into a 40-foot bus, so that alone is a victory for the people on the line.
And specifically,
Too bad they're junk. Too bad they have endless problems, especially with doors. I guess that's just the way public transportation in this country is. Something brand new is not expected to work.
the line introduces some new treatments that we haven't had on a whole line before. So it includes a next generation cloud-based signal priority system in a way that is...
Yeah, that works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. We hear lots of calls about that not working.
pretty groundbreaking for North America, actually. It includes lane stop and other treatments.
What do you mean groundbreaking? They supposedly had transit signal priority when I was working there. Of course, they never had it. It never worked, but they said they had it. Remember? Come on, think back. Those of you, I don't know if any of you listening to this, there's only like 10 people listening to this. I know that, but I remember when they had it back when I was working there. They bragged about it even. But I don't think it actually ever worked. I don't think it ever actually operationally worked.
To improve the service and the experience of our customers. And it has indeed been successful. So we've seen the travel time.
See, when they use the word customers, that's a psyop. Okay, that's a psyop. I like to point these things out. They're not customers; they're riders. Customers imply you have a choice of places to get what you need. Okay, you're like you can go to X company or B company. Customers have a choice. You don't have a choice, which is why they are not customers, and that's a psyop. That's a genuine psyop.
Times on comparable segments between what the line used to be and what it is now, those travel times have gone down.
Okay.
And our riders.
Okay, we have no reason to disbelieve them. So you're getting downtown fast. Of course, remember one thing about this FX line: less stops, which means more inconvenience for people that can't walk.
Leadership has grown as well. So we are seeing the kinds of improvements that we'd like to see. Any investment like this.
I would like to see, once again, Mr. Lato is not giving us any actual figures or facts like how much time did you save? I'm sure he knows this. How many extra riders are riding before and after? They don't give us the facts.
Will often take a couple of years to fully prove itself, and so we'll continue monitoring that as we go.
Yeah,
Some of the other benefits that are not quite as tangible but are pretty important for our riders are the kinds of improvements we made to shelters, stations,
yes.
The real-time arrival signs, the
Equity in your community, Rippy.
additional space on board, the ability to bring bikes on
Yep.
board,
Yep.
all of the amenities and the visibility and the branding
Yep.
of the service to make it stand out.
Sure.
And we've been hearing very good feedback on our big new green buses and the service and the additional space on board. The route changed, of course, a little bit if you had ridden the division before, and we were able to add important destinations like OHSU, South Waterfront in general, and the connection to PSU at the south of downtown. And we were able to, when we delivered the project, include a large proportion of DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise. So it's great for our riders, it's good for the numbers, and it's also been good for the community as well.
Okay, great.
So, sounds like it's going very well. Based on that, does TriMet have plans of introducing similar FX routes to other places in the city? Counties, I guess?
Thank you. Thanks for that question. And thanks for riding the line, the FX2. I used to ride the 4 before the Division FX, but I'm now light rail at Hollywood. I think I heard that. Light rail at Hollywood. Yep. Or the 19. Yes, we see the FX division as a great success, and we are working with Metro and our partners to develop 2
I don't know if it's a great success. I don't know about that.
new potential FX lines, one along TV Highway.
See, now this is what bothers me here, okay? This is not the time to be doing additional capital projects. This is the time to get your service back going. But, we know they're a capital projects agency. This is how they route your tax dollars to the elites. They can only do that via capital projects. There's no other way to do it. You can hire consultants. But I mean, capital projects is how you funnel that tax dollars into the pockets of elites. And that's why they're still doing them. Of course, they shouldn't be doing any more projects for now. None. Their system isn't operational. You're not even really operational yet. So, but here they are. They're doing their thing, which is like endless capital projects.
From Beaverton to Forest Grove, and the other one, 82nd Avenue within the city of Portland. So we're really excited about the planning efforts going on along those 2 corridors.
So how much are they spending on the planning efforts? I'll bet you it's millions. See, this is where the endless sinkhole is in this capital projects division. I said it a million times. They need to get rid of that capital projects division and concentrate on just providing service. But that's not how it's set up. It's turned into this money laundering operation over there.
corridors. We are also going to be developing what we call a bus rapid transit or a BRT system plan to look at system-wide where would we put in new FX lines to develop a whole system of an FX system.
Think of how much money they're spending on planning this thing out. Okay, think of it's millions. I'm sure they got lots of different people on it. So this is the problem with your transit system right here.
On top of our existing system.
And do you have a timeline for when you're thinking the FX plan?
We have it in our current fiscal year 24 budget, and we anticipate that the planning for that will be about a year to 2 years worth of planning. And then we were working with our partners to look at what that system looks like and then look at how we prioritize effort.
Yeah, you see they have this whole thing of we're going to plan it. We have people getting paid to plan that. It's not necessary. They shouldn't be doing it. All that money should be rerouted into service. And it's another example of why you don't need a fare increase. You're participating in activities that are not bringing any benefit to anybody except the people that are doing the activities.
And then build off of that system plan.
Cool. I had some specific follow-ups.
And nobody challenges this notion. It's like, why are you doing this when you can't even operate your system correctly?
I know that the initial kind of targets for the FX2, I feel like one of them was to increase headways by 10%. Was that the requirement to receive federal funding from Gresham to Portland?
So
Feel free to tell me if I'm misremembering that.
Well,
let me ask. I got two. So one is like, did we achieve kind of whatever the target was? If I'm misremembering. And then secondly, you said there's an increase in ridership, and I just wanted to make sure I understood kind of what the metric is there, because saying number of people on the vehicle feels like it's not the right metric when the vehicle is now larger. So just wanted to make sure I understood kind of what was before and what our progress has been, or what you've seen so far with FX2.
Sure. So the base frequency, that is the frequency kind of throughout the day and weekends, on the previous line was every 15 minutes. On the FX, it's every 12 minutes. So that cuts the average wait time down. And the size of the bus is a nice amenity when you get on, but it by itself doesn't attract a whole lot of new riders. It's the frequency and the visibility that's doing that. But given that, the fact that we're seeing more boarding counts, more people getting...
Yes. He just made a good point that I want to bring up here. They didn't need to do that. All they needed was like frequent service on that line. Like they could have had taken all that money. What was it? 160 million was it for this? I forgot how much it was. But they could have just added like every 5 minutes, 5-minute service on division. Would have been a much better way to go, but there's no capital project involved. So that's why we don't have that. You get it? You're connecting the dots now and how this is such a scam.
On is a sign of success because they're responding to those improvements. And yes, we met all of the federal guidelines, of course. We always strive to be A-plus students with anybody who's going to give us the capital money to be able to do these kinds of improvements.
Another planning question. So the community is talking about and considering tolling for 205.
More wealth extraction from the poor, from citizens. You are living within a death cult who's determined to steal everything they can from you and put it into pockets of the elites, because government is corporate owned. We know that for sure. Corporations are owned by the elites, and they're stealing, they're extracting as much wealth as they can from you. And they're using these fake covers like, we need to do something about the traffic. It's a green energy plan or whatever. Those are all covers for robbery.
And I-5. But it's not been decided yet. One of the objections that's been raised is how transit, how TRIMET will be prepared, how well they'll be prepared to meet increased demands on bus use.
They are not prepared at all. Okay, that much we know for sure.
And light rail, if tolling comes and it increases the need for that type of transit. So what planning are you doing for this
See,
possibility?
this is what they want to do. They want to force you out of your car and onto government transportation. That's the whole plan. Force it on you. Okay, this is part of their plan.
And does it include potential costs of increased ridership that may not be paid for by fares?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Tom Mills. I'm the Director of Mobility Planning and Policy at TRIMET. And yes, we are working very closely with ODOT and our regional partners to ensure that the new tolling policies fund projects that could be funded with toll revenue or by other state revenues. I would say that we're actually infused quite a bit throughout the project. So we sit on the Regional Tolling Advisory Committee, the Equity Mobility Advisory Committee, ODOT's regional.
So yeah, we're going to toll you, but we have an equity committee. See the fraud there? We want to make sure our tolling is equitable. It's just a complete out and out fraud. That's what it is.
Modeling group for tolling, and
Modeling
possibly
group.
most importantly, we sit on the public transit strategy work group for the regional mobility pricing project. That work group, it is. Yes. That work group is made up of jurisdictions, other transit agencies like SMART in Wilsonville, and the counties and other agencies. The work group's mission is to develop a list of public transit strategies that could be funded with tolling or other revenue to offset the impact of tolling, either from diversion or to give people another option rather than driving in the tolled corridor. Additionally, I would reiterate what Sam had mentioned.
I want to make this clear. I'm 100% against the fare increase, and I'm 100% against tolling. Zero. I support it at zero.
Earlier about TRIMET's Forward Together program.
Forward Together.
Much of what's in
No, it's forward for the riders. It's not even forward. It's backward together.
Forward Together in and around the areas that are to be tolled, if tolling goes forward, anticipates tolling. So as we were going through that process, we were thinking about what transit improvements we would like to make in the near term. We were also thinking about the possibility of tolling becoming a reality. Finally, I would mention that we will be kicking off in the new fiscal year what I refer to as Forward Together 2.0, which is more of a longer range, less financially constrained vision for what our transit service will look like. And of course, that will also have the possibility of tolling baked into it. And I would further mention that we will be including a max restoration process with that as well.
A max restoration process. Jason will love it. Let's do more max capital projects. We can't stop. We just got through spending $250 million on the fucking better red, which doesn't actually give you a better red and was not necessary at all. But let's do more.
Because Max is operating at lower headways than what it was pre-pandemic, and we hope to start.
Oh, I see. He's going to bring a service. You mean you're going to bring your service back finally? I'll believe it when I see it.
Restoring those in the coming years. Thank you.
Well,
Switching gears a little bit to talk about your climate goal.
oh, I can't take it. I don't want to hear about the climate goals. That's enough. That's enough of this. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Unaccountable Elites making all the decisions that affect your lives and you have no say. Over and out.